What's up everyone, it's UnsungNPC back here with another class guide for you. Today we're going to be looking at the fighter class, and arguably one of the more basic classes in the game, right up there with wizard. So here we go. They are great at defense and melee and ranged. Makes sense, they don't have magic, so they can't really be good at control or support. Although, I would argue that they do have some control, because there's a lot of intimidation, dazzling display, current against smash, that kind of stuff that you could totally do with fighter that would give you some ounce of control. But other than that, not really a control class. By the way, if you are at all interested in talking more about this game or any RPG or any game at all for that matter, we have a small but growing community on Discord right now, and you can check out the link for that in the description below. Totally check it out, join us, it's a great time to be had. We do lots of voting on like main characters for RPGs that I play. We're doing Wildermyth where people can put their names in for a character. Everyone's voting on what Skyrim character I'm gonna play for Skyrim. It's gonna be a great time. I'd love to see you there. Check it. Now, the fighter is a very straightforward class, okay? So the archetypes can get a little bit more involved, but the fighter class is very straightforward. So let's take a look, shall we? High fortitude, low will, low reflex. So you're looking at 2 low saving throws, but you've got full BAB. So you've got 1 increase every level, so that's kind of the trade-off there. You get 10 HP, which is just a lot to start with. A lot. And then we get Athletics, Knowledge World, Lore Nature, and Persuasion. Kind of interesting that they give you Lore Nature. I guess it's kind of like the survival skill, right? That's very interesting though. So fighter, proficient with anything that's not an exotic weapon, basically. You also get a combat feat at bonus combat feat at first level, and then every even level. So you get a feat and a bonus combat feat at first level, and then every odd level you get your regular feats like every character does, and then at every even level you get a bonus combat feat. So you get 21 feats. Half of them have to be combat, but you still get 21 feats. I believe. Yes. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's a lot of feats. It's like, the feats are really the special powers that the fighter gets to make them useful. There's so many different feats you can go down, and if you aren't sure about what feats to look for, you can check it out on my... This way. One of these 2 ways. You can check it out on my feats videos for strength-based and dex-based characters and ranged characters, and see what all those feats do. Check out the feat paths and then how to build those fighters effectively. So, you also get bravery, okay? You get +1 to will saves against fear, and then it increases to eventually become +5. I like this because will saves are low for fighters, so getting that bonus to will to not be feared is very important. When your melee combatants get feared, it can really cause problems, especially with enemies that deal attacks of opportunity. That's the upside to ranged characters. Like if your ranged characters get feared, yes, you lose, your character, but it's not nearly as detrimental as when you lose your melee fighters, your frontliner dudes. You've also got armor training. Armor training allows you to reduce the armor check penalty by 1, increase the dex bonus allowed by 1, and then both of those will go up all the way up to level 4. So you'll get a +4 dex bonus allowed, and a -4 to your armor check penalty, which is huge, which is really great. And then in addition, you can move your normal speed while wearing medium armor, and then at 7th level, you can move your normal speed while wearing heavy armor, which means that you won't be slowed down by the 10 and 20 feet markers. You'll just be able to move 30 feet at full, or 20 if you're small, which is awesome. Remember, if you're a dwarf, armor doesn't weigh you down at all. So that's not actually useful for a dwarf because you're already always going to be 20 flatline. We have armor mastery at 19th level, which gives you a damage reduction 5 to everything whenever you are wearing armor or using a shield. Not and, or. So you can not wear armor and just use a shield if you want to. I wouldn't recommend it as a fighter, but you totally could. Weapon training. Weapon training allows you to get a +1 to your attack rolls and damage rolls with a selected fighter group of weapons. And you also add this bonus to any combat maneuver checks made with those same weapons. And then you also apply it to your combat maneuver defense when defending against disarm attempts when they're trying to disarm you while you're wielding those weapons from your chosen group. Now, as you do weapon training, you eventually get advanced weapon training. So for weapon training, the options for weapons are axes, which is the Bardish, Battle Axe, Dwarven War Axe, Great Axe, Hand Axe, Heavy Pick, Light Pick, Orc Double Axe, and Throwing Axe. We've got bows for bows and longbows, close for shields, gauntlets, daggers, spiked shield, unarmed strike. We've got crossbows. You've got double weapons, which also includes double axe, two-bladed sword, quarterstaff, gnome-hooked hammer, dwarven urgosh. You've got hammers, maces, and flails, heavy blades, light blades, monk weapons, natural weapons like bite, claw, whatnot, pole arms, spears, which are not pole arms, and thrown weapons, darts, javelin, sling, staff, throwing axe, etc. Okay, these are the weapon training. These other abilities, these are either also selectable instead of weapon training, or they are advanced weapon training powers that you can get, I believe. I'll need to double check, and after I double check, I can post it in the description as a confirmation, but it's one of those two things. And these things are two-handed weapon training, armed bravery, and you can pause these to look at the description of them. Combat maneuver defense, effortless dual wielding, fighter's finesse, fighter's reflexes, fighter's tactics, and trained initiative. Okay? You'll pick a fighter group here, and then every 4 levels you'll pick another fighter group, and then you'll also get to add a +1 to another fighter group that you're already using. Okay, so for example, as it says here, when a fighter reaches 9th level, you receive +1 on attacking damage with the new fighter group and a +2 with a group already selected at 5th level. Okay, and you'll keep going up. And then eventually you get weapon mastery, which means you choose one weapon, and any attacks made with that one weapon automatically confirm all critical threats and have their damage multiplier increase by 1, which means that the ×2 for crits becomes ×3, and etc. In addition, you cannot be disarmed at all. So that's fighter. It's very straightforward. It's being heavily armored. It's being expert at using weapons, and that's it. For the base class for fighter, I know we're gonna find a fighter plus in here because the base class for fighter I think is only useful if you're trying to multi-class or you're trying to get something for a prestige class or something. I would not use base fighter in full all on its own. I don't think it's strong enough to hold up that way. Next, we have the Aldori Defender, which changes the game for fighters significantly, as you can see with all these X's. Okay? First off, you get proficiency with the dueling sword, as well as all the normal proficiencies. Secondly, you get rid of your armor training. You keep armor mastery, you keep the damage reduction, but you get rid of armor training, and instead you get defensive parry. Defensive parry, whenever you make a full attack with the dueling sword, where you just attack and do nothing else, you gain a +1 bonus to AC against melee attacks, and then it increases. So eventually you'll have a +5 against AC against all melee attacks. It's only melee though. You also give up a few bonus combat feats to get a few extra abilities. Disarming Strike, so whenever you successfully disarm someone, you also deal damage to the target without the strength bonus. Normally, you would just disarm them, but now you can disarm and hit them still. You get Steel Net. When fighting defensively with the dueling sword, the penalties on all attacks in a round are reduced by 2, and the dodge bonus to AC is increased by 2, which is huge. So fighting defensively normally instills a huge penalty to your attack bonus while giving you a little bit of a tiny bonus to your AC. If you get 3 ranks in mobility, you reduce the penalty. And now with this, you also reduce the penalty and increase the AC, which is huge. It's a very powerful ability. And then counterattack. Can make an attack of opportunity as an immediate action against an opponent who hits the Sword Lord with a melee attack, so long as it's within reach. So if you haven't used your reaction yet, then whenever they attack you, you can immediate attack them. I guess it says it's an immediate action, so actually it doesn't take your reaction, you just get to do it, I guess. Which is interesting, actually. So you can just do it as long as someone hits you. Then you can just keep hitting them back? That seems weird to me. But I like it, if that's the case. And this is the Aldori Sword Lord. It's a dueling sword fighter. It's a fighter that gets special things for dueling sword, and you only use a dueling sword, and that's all that Aldori Sword Lord is good. Aldori Defender is good for. It works very well. Hello. It works very well if you are trying to get into the Aldori Sword Lord prestige class. It's a very good way of progressing, essentially. So that's definitely an option there. Not Fighter Plus because it's dueling sword specific, but still pretty good. Next is the Armiger. The Armiger is the fighter that leads into Hell Knight. Now you don't have to be an Armiger to be a Hell Knight, but you get Hell Knight-like abilities, so it just makes sense to do this and get into Hell Knight. They are would-be Hell Knights, that's what they are. So the Armiger, you pick an order to join. Chain, Gate, Gold Claw, Nail, Pyre, and then you're a Studious Squire. So you gain an additional skill rank at each level. You treat Knowledge World as a class skill. Knowledge World becomes a class skill, even though it was already. Great, what a waste. The bonus skill rank is nice, but I don't get why you would treat it as a class skill when it's already a class skill. It doesn't make any sense. I feel like Arcana would be good because Hell Knights are required to learn Arcana to become a Hell Knight. So I don't know why you wouldn't choose Arcana. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. You also get rid of Bravery for Ardent. You gain +1 bonus on will saves against Charm and Compulsion. Instead of Fear, it's Charm and Compulsion, which arguably is a lot better. And then the first time per day that you fail a saving throw against Charm or Compulsion, you can re-roll. Oh, that's huge. So +5 bonus against Compulsion and Charm, which is great. And then being able to re-roll the first one you fail in a day, which is also great. That's really nice. So for Order of the Chain, +2 to CMB and CMD, this bonus increases. Order of the Gate is, it reduces arcane spell failure chance when wearing armor. Aura of the Claw is you have an aura that you use 3 times a day. God Claw, sorry. Last 1 minute grants all allies +1 to AC, attack, and damage rolls against chaotic enemies, which increases. Nail gives you favored enemy from the Ranger's favored enemy list, +2 on attack and damage rolls against it, which increases as you go. Pyre is receive fire damage, you gain fast healing 5 for the number of rounds equal to your level in the prestige class. At 5th level, you gain fast healing 10 and fast healing 15. Order of the Rack. 3 times per day is a standard action. You can target a single creature. They have to pass a will saving throw or become unable to cast spells for a number of rounds. Also applies whenever you confirm a critical hit on them. And then Order of the Scourge. Whenever you land a killing blow, all enemies within a 15 feet radius suffer a -2 penalty on will saving throws for 3 rounds. So, but it's a nice ability. It loses your bonus combat feat at level 1, but that's like an extra rank plus that, and then getting Ardent, which is definitely better than Bravery. To me, this screams Fighter Plus. I think some people who roleplay like me might have an issue with it because you kind of have to be like a squire of the Order of Hell Knights, which is like you have to roleplay that now, right? That's what I would do. But on the other hand, it gives you a lot of the same stuff that Fighter does, but just better. So I would like to consider this a Fighter Plus with a little asterisk up there for roleplay ability. Okay. Next is the Dragon Air Scion. This is a new one. This one was not in Kingmaker, so this will be interesting. So you get Arcane Strike. Suspending a swift action each round, you can imbue your weapons with a fraction of your power. You deal +1 damage or are treated as magic. For every 5 caster levels you possess, this bonus increases. So it gets better as you increase. This definitely seems like something that's meant to be multi-classed with a spellcaster, because fighters don't have caster levels, I assume. I don't know if it would count your fighter level as your caster level, but I assume that you need to actually have a caster level. So this would be something you would multi-class with a casting class, an arcane casting class. You also lose bravery and armor training and armor mastery and weapon mastery. Whoa, that's a lot. And you gain fearful might, +1 to persuasion skill checks made to intimidate. Okay, increases as you go. And then you get Draconic Presence. You receive Dazzling Display for free. You don't need a weapon in hand to use it either. And you can use it as a standard action, instead of like the normal full round action. And then you get a Dragon Bloodline. You select one. Once chosen, cannot be changed. Any number of abilities deal damage and grant resistances based on their dragon type. Takes a level another class that grants a bloodline. The bloodlines must be of the same type. Okay. So resistances and whatnot, you gain that. Okay, so if we take a bloodline, we get Draconic Defenses, +1 natural armor bonus to AC, and energy resistance against the energy type. All of that increases as you level up. And then Draconic Strike. So when you use an attack augmented by Arcane Strike, then you deal an additional 1d4 points of damage of the Scion's energy type. Then eventually you get Wings, and then you get Might of Worms. You gain immunity to paralysis, sleep, and the energy type of your dragon, as well as blind sense. Okay, maybe not meant to be multi-class, actually. I could see it working really well as a multi-class with either like, probably like a Draconic Sorcerer. I probably wouldn't go Magus, because if you're already a martial class, you want to multi-class with a full caster. I wouldn't multi-class with a class that's half casting, half martial. That's too difficult to deal with. I think this is an interesting class, but I could see it holding up on its own. The only downside is like you lose a lot of this stuff. You gain all this dragon stuff, which is cool. It's cool. But you lose bravery, 3 bonus feats, and all your armor training, and armor mastery, and weapon mastery. That's a lot to lose. So I would combine it with a sorcerer. That's what I would do. But it's not what you have to do. You can do whatever you want. Mutation Warrior. Okay, Mutation Warrior. I like this one a lot. I've played around with this a little bit. It's really fun. So you don't get armor training or armor mastery, which is totally fine in my book, because you get a mutagen. It functions as the alchemist mutagen, using your fighter level as your alchemist level. Other than that, it's exactly the same as an alchemist mutagen, which is awesome. And then you get 4 mutagen discoveries, and from them you can choose feral, feral wings, grand mutagen, greater mutagen, nauseating flesh, preserve organs, spontaneous healing. Feral mutagen again. Okay. So you can pause the video to read what those do, or check out the alchemist video where I talk about those and the mutagen. But this is basically a fighter that instead of focusing on armor, you get these defensive alchemist abilities and a mutagen. The Mutation Warrior is probably my favorite fighter archetype and the one I would prefer to play instead of regular fighter. Armiger is still great. I still love Armiger. I think Dragon's Air Scion has some merit. I think Aldori Defender is pretty niche. But Mutation Warrior is awesome. I love Mutation Warrior. Just pump in that strength or dex or con bonus, whatever you're trying to do. Give yourself some awesome, cool alchemy defenses and call it a day. I really dig it. Especially for a fighter that's not focusing on heavy armor, because you get rid of armor training. But if you are a light armor fighter or something like that, like an archer maybe, or like any type of ranged fighter, then this could be a really nice archetype to play around with. I like it a lot. Tower Shield Specialist. We all know this one. If you play Kingmaker, you should know this one inside and out. So, get rid of Bravery, get Burst Barrier. So, you can screen yourself from spells. So you get +1 bonus to reflex saves while using a Tower Shield, which increases to +5 eventually. Which is nice. It's a cool ability for someone carrying a Tower Shield. Then you also get Tower Shield Training, where you reduce the armor penalty by 3, and the maximum dexterity bonus allowed increases by 2. And then this benefit increases as you go. Which doesn't actually end up being that much of a bonus, because you start with a significant penalty to armor and like negative like dexterity bonus allowed, like not any dexterity bonus allowed. So it increases it somewhat, not a ton, but it is nice to have. And then you get rid of weapon stuff to get you Tower Shield Specialist, which is you don't take a -2 to attack rolls for the shield's encumbrance, which is huge. It's a shame you don't start with that, but it's huge. Shield Tower Defense. You gain your shield bonus against touch attacks. That's actually great because tower shields are like the highest AC shields. So getting a touch attack bonus from that shield bonus is great. I will say there are other ways to get shields to become touch bonuses, but tower shields have the best shield bonuses. So total cover, cannot be flanked. Let's see. You get evasion as the rogue class ability, so if you successfully make a saving throw for reflex and it normally deals half damage, you instead take no damage. And then we have improved evasion, where if it succeeds, if you succeed your save, no damage, and if you fail your save, you only take half instead of full. So this is like a very defensive character. Don't get me wrong, tower shields can be very, very useful tanks. The only downside is that their attacking is pretty garbage because you don't get any weapon bonuses, and the allowance of like there's no like reducing an attack penalty except for the initial -2 attack penalty. But like other than that, you're not gonna hit much. Even with full baby, you are just not going to. But it's a great tank class, don't get me wrong, because tower shield bonus to AC is ginormous. All of these reflex bonuses as well makes up for having a shittier reflex score. So very defensive, can withstand a lot. If you build this correctly, it can be very useful. I like to build these as dazzling tanks. Just spam dazzling display while you stand there making sure nothing gets past you and call it a day. Easy solution to this problem. Next we have Two-Handed Fighter. So you lose bravery and instead you get strong grip. You get a +1 to combat maneuver bonus and defense for any sunder attempts or disarm attempts. Sunder is when you crash their armor, and then disarm is when you disarm them, and that increases to eventually +5. You lose your armor stuff to gain overhand chop, so whenever you make a single attack with a two-handed weapon, you add double your strength to damage, which is great. Backswing, so whenever you make a full attack, you double your strength bonus for all attacks, even after the first one. Pile driver, whenever you make an attack with a two-handed weapon, you can either make a bull rush maneuver or a trip maneuver against the target as a free action, and it does not provoke an attack of opportunity. That's actually really nice. That's actually really nice. Greater power attack. When using power attack, which as a fighter who's doing melee, you should have power attack. Then you use the bonus damage from power attack is doubled instead of increased by half, which is really cool. And then devastating blow. You do a standard action. You make a single attack at a -5 penalty. If it hits, it treated as a critical hit. And then special weapon abilities that activate only on a critical hit do not activate if this critical hit is confirmed. So if you have any critical mastery things, critical focuses, they don't apply to this specific blow, but this is a faster way to get a critical hit. And then no weapon stuff except for weapon mastery, which you should choose one of your two-handed weapons. You get two-handed weapon training. Any two-handed weapon. It just makes it to where your bonus just ends up being huge for two-handed weapons instead of dividing it amongst a bunch of weapons. That's the other thing I have an issue with fighter, the base fighter, is that you have to pick multiple weapon groups when most characters will just stick with a weapon the whole game. I don't like that, but this is very specialized. I don't think there's anything in fighter that I would throw away. I don't think so. I would throw the base fighter class away right in the garbage chute. That's most base classes though, for my taste. Outdoory Defender, very niche, but very viable. Armiger, in my opinion, fighter plus, but locks you into a certain role-played character if you're into that kind of thing. Air Scion seems tricky to master, but ultimately could be very fun to use. Mutation Warrior, the best, simple, super fun, powerful, love it. Tower Shield Specialist, a great tank if you know how to use it correctly. And then Two-Handed Fighter, again, very niche. You're going to be using two-handed weapons only. But if you like using two-handed weapons as a fighter, then you should absolutely take this class and not take anything else. Because for two-handed weapons, you will not find a better class than the Two-Handed Fighter among the fighter archetypes. You just won't. So I would stick with this if I were you. All in all, fighter's not terrible. I think the archetypes, most of them can work on their own. I feel like for some of them, I would probably want to end up multi-classing with something just to give you more stuff. I feel like I would multi-class Two-Handed Fighter. I would multi-class maybe Air Scion, maybe Mutation Warrior as well. I'd probably multi-class base fighter. Armiger, I wouldn't worry about multi-classing because I would just take it straight to Hell Knight and call it a day. So, but that is the fighter class. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that it was useful to you in figuring out the mechanics of the fighter class and what they all have to offer, and hear my takes on what I would do with them. If you like this content, like it, subscribe, stick around for more as we continue down the classes. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I am UnsungNPC, and I will catch you next time.